There is an epidemic in America's criminal justice system. The prosecution and conviction of innocent people for crimes they did not commit. Welcome to American Justice. The American Justice Podcast Army works to free men and women wronged by the criminal justice system. It's not only about the innocent who have been imprisoned, but also the victims of the crimes as well. No one deserves justice more than them. And now, here's your host, Scott Poggensee.
Hello, AJ Army. Welcome back to your podcast. When we left off in the last episode, the jury pool was dismissed. This gave the attorneys a chance to conduct voir dire with each of the individual potential jurors who spoke up. Some might feel that this is a complete and total waste of time. To those people, I say, it's a good thing that you don't work for the American Justice Podcast. What you're about to hear is yet another reason why Vincent Cosey never had an ice cube's chance in hell at being a free man. The first potential juror remembered the defendant and the victim's name from the paper, and her daughter was friends with the victim, Stephanie Goins. You'll see time and time again as this season progresses that this is an incredibly small area. Everyone knows everyone, including the police. Screw up once, and they'll remember. I grew up in a small town. As a kid, they always threatened to call my daddy when I was caught doing things I shouldn't be doing. Hell, they didn't even need to look up his phone number. They had it memorized. In the case of Vincent Cosey and Stephanie Goins, it was no different. Friendly or not, everyone in this community seemed to know everyone else. Still, this juror swears this would not influence her decision. A second lady claims everyone she works with thought Cosey killed Goins, but she too said it wouldn't influence her decision. Why are these people trying so hard to sit on a jury rather than get out of it like every other potential juror everywhere else in the world?
And now, hang on to your hats. Keep your arms and legs inside the ride at all times, because it's time for a rider's note. From head writer C. Derick Miller.
This would never have happened in my courtrooms back in good old Hunt County. No one ever wanted to be there, and they would sometimes come up with the most outlandish shit to be excused. Whether it was acting like they were a crazy person or claiming to be a Nazi. Then again, from what I know about Hunt County, being a crazy Nazi in the Hunt County courthouse is probably not a far-fetched identity.
All right, the next potential juror was involved in a discussion about the case recently at dinner with a law enforcement official who was also involved in the case. Par for the course. She states that the discussion would not sway her decision. Were they told to say this? Was Stephanie Goins' family in the hallway handing out $100 bills? The next juror question states that people like Mr. Cosey don't end up in these predicaments by chance, but says that he doesn't have an opinion on the matter. Sir? What you just said is an opinion. Does someone need to explain to the potential jurors what the word opinion means? I mean, it's not Latin, and they don't really use it at Starbucks. All right, I looked it up for you. Yes, Google is free and it's in your pocket. Definition 1. A view or judgment formed about something, not necessarily based on fact or knowledge. Definition 2. The beliefs or views of a large number or majority of people about a particular thing. And definition 3. An estimation of the quality or worth of someone or something. Now that we're all on the same sheet of music here in regard to the definition of the word opinion, let's continue. He too was involved in a discussion about the case with others and claims that someone stated, quote, a gun just went off and then went off 4 more times. The defense notices his smile when he makes that statement. He says it was all just a joke, but there's a reason that Mr. Cosey was arrested to begin with. Again, here's where the shadiness is on display. A man's life is on the line here. A black man in a predominantly white county. This juror is making jokes during voir dire, which, if you remember correctly, means to tell the truth. Another juror who lives near the murder location on 4 Mile Road stated that he and a friend had discussed the case and believed the suspect to be guilty. He honestly states that he can't assume Mr. Cosey is innocent at this point. Hooray for honesty. Finally, I truly feel so much better now that one person out of the lot has decided to be fair. It's okay to have an opinion on someone's guilt or innocence, just don't try your damnedest to sit on a jury if you do. The next potential juror said she'd read an article about the case in the Racine Journal, but didn't believe most of it. She claimed that the newspaper was unreliable, politically biased, and very liberal. Sounds like the kind of newspaper I'd personally like to read, but if for nothing else, then a change of pace. Most of them in the home county of American Justice podcast seem to be unreliable, politically biased, and very conservative. Whatever happened to fair and balanced? Does anyone use that descriptor anymore? Hell, is anyone truly fair and balanced? No. The answer is no. We've all taken sides. Every single one of us. Some just admit it, and some don't. Okay, I guess I'll step down off my soapbox now. Wait, no I won't. I'll do that when we stop convicting innocent people in this country, and predominantly black men, of course. So far, everyone in the jury pool heard a discussion about the case while sitting outside of the courtroom. No one remembers who was discussing it, and no one participated. Sounds about right. 100 people occupied a waiting room, and no one saw who was giving the wrong speech at the wrong time. If that's the case, who was talking? One potential juror, the police chief, stated that he would not be biased and that a cop's memory could fail them. Oh, Wisconsin. It's got to be the cheese, right? I mean, cheese causes honesty? He's friends with several people within the district attorney's office, but says he knows absolutely nothing whatsoever about the case. What do these people talk about during their downtime? He's friends with several of them from the health club and claims them all to be honest and believable people. I suddenly have a thought of all these men sitting in towels in a sauna. If they're not talking about work, then what are they doing? Sweating? Staring each other down seductively? Oh, the joy of being the guy who gets to erase the footage from the cameras in the sauna room. Please don't let this guy be on the jury. I just don't think I could take it. The final juror in question was chatting around with the district attorney at a wedding the previous weekend and had a ton of cousins on the police force. Let me guess. No opinion, right? Damn it, I'm so tired of being right all the time. She has never heard about this case and would have no predetermined opinion.
I've been to Wisconsin, folks, several times. If I was forced to attend a wedding in that state, especially being seated with someone in law enforcement, I'm going to be as drunk as a skunk and asking all the no-no questions I can muster.
Some jurors are excused. Everyone is instructed not to discuss the case, joking or not, and they break for lunch. Now, if this is a typical courthouse, it's set in a downtown area. Downtowns in Middle America have dwindled down to near abandonment over the years, and there'd only be a handful of places to eat within walking distance of this place. So, some of the jurors are probably eating at the same place. If, by chance, they happen to walk into a restaurant full of complete strangers but notice one another, they'd probably be compelled to sit near or next to each other for comfort. Now, what do you think they're going to talk about? Yep. Again, with full bellies from a lunch break, they're conducting voir dire individually outside the presence of the rest of the jury pool. The first gentleman is very opinionated about the victim and how, quote, good of a person she was. Of course, he's arrived at this conclusion by the information presented in the media. They say whatever sells soda during commercials and what sells newspapers. And for this guy, it's totally working. Good job, media. Good job. He's also gone as far as to express his personal opinion in a blog. In 2006? A pioneer in the field, obviously. I wonder what he thinks about the year 2021. I've searched the internet for anything regarding Vincent Cosey and Stephanie Goins, and I can't find much of anything. The 15 years between then and now have not been kind to the two people in question. And I don't mean to give a lot away, but let's just suffice it to say that there will be evidence presented that Stephanie Goins wasn't the angel that this juror believed her to be. Now trust me, again, I'm not going to try to victim shame anyone. No one, and I mean absolutely no one, deserves to be killed in the manner that Stephanie was. But if she was an irresponsible party girl that dated lots of guys, we're going to say it. Oops, I'm sorry. I think I've said too much already. Let's move on. During this potential juror's questioning, the prosecution begins to lead the judge in a procedural matter, and the judge falls for it. No worries, though. I was disgusted long before this point. I mean, damn, we're still in jury pool selection phase. The judge is clearly not paying attention at this point, and why should she? One more well-known criminal off the streets of Racine County, right? The next juror to be brought into private chambers knew absolutely nothing about the case until arriving at the courthouse that morning. Everybody seemed to know which case they were getting picked for before it was even officially announced. She blames one of the excused jurors who was a hairdresser. Those damn loose-lipped hairdressers. She claims the jury discussion didn't influence her opinion of the defendant. She'd also worked for the district clerk's office for a very long time, and that didn't influence her opinion either. It's like these people were once quoted as saying, "When I grow up, I want to be a juror." Maybe the Goins family hadn't run out of $100 bills yet. The next juror has had a child in the juvenile system. One of the defense attorneys defended the child, and one of the prosecutors handled the case. Everyone knows everyone. You'd expect a suburb of Milwaukee to be a lot larger, but it's really not. Most suburbs of large cities in the Midwestern United States are occupied by farms. I wouldn't have believed it either if I hadn't witnessed it with my own eyes, but it's rather unsettling, especially if you're driving there at night or early in the morning. Damn scarecrows will pop up around the corner of the road at the most inopportune times, and me without a change of underwear. I mean, so I've heard. Suddenly, the information to be entered into evidence from U.S. Cellular arrives. The day of the trial? This isn't Candygram, it's damn evidence. No one on either the prosecution or defense side had even seen this evidence before, and they let it slide. After all, it's only a black man in a county full of white people. Let me know when you're all tired of hearing this statistical fact, and I'll double up on the number of times I say it. It's just plain wrong. You know it, and I know it. They then introduced 4 new jurors who replaced those that were excused after the one-on-one voir dire. Now they're speaking to the entire pool again. I can't wait to hear how many of these people were at a funeral the week prior with the entire police force. Yes, I know it was a wedding. I've just always found most funerals to be more fun. Besides, you can only have one funeral, but you can have a dozen weddings.
I resemble that remark.
Whoa, where did C. Derick come from? Hey, are you watching me? Are you here with me? Anyway, they go through the standard pretrial discussions of, cops. Do you hate cops? If 2 cops left different towns traveling towards each other at different speeds, which would get to the donut shop first? Everyone claims to love police officers, and they've never done anything wrong. On a completely separate note, it was rumored that everyone on the jury was also huge believers in Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, and the Tooth Fairy. Then the jury is questioned about their involvement in violent relationships. Not the cool, voluntary, okay, the safe word is sugar kind of violent relationships with all the leather and whips, but the involuntary ones that need never happen. Never. Strangely, only a few claim to have been involved or know someone who had been involved in an abusive relationship. I believe this to be statistically inaccurate, even in the year 2006. Why do these people want to serve on this jury so damn bad? Think about someone that you know. Do you know anyone that's ever been in an abusive relationship? I think most people probably have, and it's very unfortunate. Taking statistics out of it, I've watched some of my lifelong friends go in and out of abusive relationships my entire life. It's very unfortunate. They ask if anyone knew the victim, which they all replied to no. Then they ask if anyone ever owned a Chevrolet Celebrity. One brave person answered yes. I'm not sure I'd personally be that brave. I remember Chevy Celebrities to be horrible vehicles. My apologies to anyone out there who owned one or still owns one. According to Convenient Circumstances, Vincent Cosey owned one of these cars, and one was seen near the scene of the murder. We'll get into that more a little later, but just in case you were thinking it was a random question being thrown out there, it wasn't random at all.
And now, hang on to your hats. Keep your arms and legs inside the ride at all times, because it's time for a rider's note from head writer C. Derick Miller.
One strange thing I picked up on was that several of these potential jurors had served on other juries in the past, and they wanted to do it again, willingly. The reason I find this so strange is that during my time at the Hunt County Sheriff's Department, I spent many hours sitting in on jury selection. Almost everyone would try to get out of being on a jury just like it was some kind of major inconvenience. Either their grandmother was dying or they had to be home to feed the dogs. I've heard hundreds of off-the-wall excuses. This is not the case in Racine County at all. People seem to take pride in this civic duty, or they just like shipping innocent people off to jail. One of the two.
Also, several of the jurors claim to have several friends, neighbors, or family members who are law enforcement officers. In my experience, most law enforcement officers seem to socially travel in herds and usually don't have many friends outside of their own circle. Again, this may just be a Texas thing. I wonder if anyone from Racine County, Wisconsin is listening to this thinking all kinds of weird stuff about Texas. Things like, why can't our power grid survive an itty-bitty snowstorm? Or, hey, don't they realize that summers get hot? I mean, it happens every year, right? Mind-boggling. They all claim that no matter how often their law enforcement counterparts speak about their jobs during private conversations, it will have absolutely no bearing on their opinion of this case whatsoever. They even claim to never have personally heard of an incapable police officer or law enforcement official. Only on television. I'm not even going to state the obvious for the sake of redundancy. The willingness of this jury to serve is so damn mind-boggling. I was speaking about it out loud to somebody, and they wondered if Wisconsin jurors made more money than Texas jurors in 2006. Mind blown. Is this the reason? Yeah, that answer is no. Google is free and it's in your pockets. Finally, even though most of the jurors claim to have a nagging voice, their words, not mine, in the back of their head saying that Cosey committed the murder, they all seem to think that they can shut this voice up until the evidence is presented. At this point, I really need to know what amount of small fortune was paid to jurors in Racine County, Wisconsin in 2006. Adjust for inflation, and I might move there to hang out around the courthouse for a living. Several of them, and I've failed to mention this so far, have claimed since the beginning of jury selection that Racine County has a massive violence problem. Perhaps they think this is their way of cleaning it up? Most of the jury claims to be biased against anyone who uses drugs, and one of them even goes as far to say that those people are stupid. 2006. How I long for thee and thy mentality. Drugs have been consistently stupid since the dawn of time, so I can't really blame the time period of this trial. No, pot is not a drug in my opinion, so I'm mostly talking about the Breaking Bad stuff. Then, the jury is asked if they have a problem with Mr. Cosey being black. First of all, why is this even brought up? The fact that the powers that be in Racine County would make this part of their pre-trial procedure is the ultimate insinuation of racism in my mind. How can you not expect the jury to be racist if the courtroom already is? Again, personal opinion, but why is this discussion even necessary? Shame on you, Wisconsin. Shame on you. Oh wait, Season 1, Hunt County, Greenville, Texas. The blackest land, the whitest people. Never mind. Carry on, Wisconsin. You're good. At least you're not advertising it on a sign across the main street. Backing up, I just found out that Wisconsin jurors only make $16 a day in 2021. Whatever it was in 2006 was surely less. And a Wisconsin employer isn't required by the state to pay someone while they're on jury duty. Why do these people want to be on the jury so damn bad? Several of them claim to have never had a single drink of alcohol either. I'm so damn done with these people. The attorneys and prosecutors make their strikes, and their rather sober jury is chosen. The next day, the trial begins with 12 jurors and 2 alternates who have never had a drop of happy juice and never taken drugs. And they associate with nothing but cops and all attend functions together, but have no predetermined opinions about anything, ever. I hear a train a-comin'. It's rolling round the bend.
I hear the train a-comin'. It's rolling around the bend. And I ain't seen the sunshine since I don't know when. I'm stuck in Folsom Prison, and time keeps dragging on.
All right, everyone. With that, we'll see you next week. Until then, remember to stay aware, stay strong, and get involved. See you next week.
The American Justice Podcast is owned and copyrighted by Atua Productions, LLC. Your host is Scott Poggensee, and your writer is C. Derick Miller. The theme music for the American Justice Podcast has been created and composed by Josh DeRosa. Atua Productions aims for this to be an interactive podcast where you, the audience, has a great amount of influence on the content of our shows. You can interact with us in several ways. First, and most preferred, is you can leave us a voicemail. Our phone number is 972-942-0444. Be sure to leave your name and the city you're calling from, along with whether or not we can use your voice on the air. If Facebook is more your style, you can log on to our Facebook page at facebook.com/American Justice Podcast. Feel free to leave a comment, or you can message us on Messenger if you have a more pressing question or issue. If you would like to blog about the show, then you can log on to AmericanJusticePodcast.com and tell us what you think there. You can find many of the documents discussed in this episode there as well. If you are a tweeter, you can also voice your opinion on Twitter at @AJusticePodcast. If you would like to support the show, you can do so in a couple different ways. First, consider visiting our Patreon page at patreon.com/AJPodcast. We have different levels of support that include t-shirts, guest call-in spots, and early access to our podcast and YouTube shows. Next, you can like, subscribe, and click the bell icon to get notifications of when we publish episodes. We would also very much appreciate it if you could give us a 5-star review. If you have any comments about the show, or more importantly, any tips on the case we're discussing, please call 972-942-0444 and leave us a message. After all, if the subject of our podcast is innocent, that means someone out there is guilty. American Justice Army? Let's find them.